Hey guys, Eddie here. I just thought I'd make another video to use as a bit of a debrief for Atsumaru, which I did yesterday. Drove the car down, drove the car back, so that's a good thing. And I decided to enter Atsumaru, that was a month or so ago. The brakes were completely shot from buying the car back, so I knew I had to get something decent. No point going with the factory replacements or second hand or any rubbish like that, so I ended up getting some slotted rotors for the rear, and then some Zinoli dimpled and slotted rotors up front with Zinoli, I think the SP500 pads all round, and of course some RBF 500 brake fluid as well to handle the temperature. The car's never been a super fast car, but with all the bracing I've done to it, I've always had some decent brakes, and that's sort of made up a little bit of time through the corners and braking zones. Again, the car had tyres on the old gold wheels that I had. They were 18s, but the tyres were absolutely knackered. Basically they were down to the canvas and never ever passed the warrant. So ended up picking up a second-hand pedo set of 17s off a friend of mine, with some used semi-slicks on them, so I thought that'll do the trick, it'll get me going. So chucked them on the car, which is the black wheels you'll see on the car versus the gold ones. Other than that, it wasn't a huge lot to do to get ready the car for Atsumaru. So yeah, once we've done the brakes, got them braided brake lines as well. Yeah, bled the brakes once we did all that in a night, and it was all ready to go. Plus on top of the other niggly things that I can go into in another video. Went down Friday night and stayed with some friends of mine at accommodation down there. We went and got the car all screwed and aired on the Friday, all ready for the Saturday, so we just turned up ready to go. Went on the first cruise session, went okay. Obviously getting used to driving the car again. Haven't driven it for basically 7 years apart from that trip down. We're not at, at speed as such. Did about 6 or 7 laps, still wasn't really happy with the brakes. I was finding the pedal was really soft and it needs to be a lot firmer to be safer. Came back in, ended up bleeding the brakes at the track to see if we could make any difference. Long story short, it didn't really make much difference. The brakes were still working, but I still wasn't confident that they were going to pull me up at speed, so I was taking it a bit cautiously. Yeah, rebled the brakes, got them ready for the grip session, so we had to do the helmet, balaclava, race suit, gloves, all the safety requirements that you need. So I had a lot of gear that I borrowed some friends of mine, all the gear, so thanks guys. Went up for the grip session, used the first lap to get a bit of heat into the tyres. Obviously with semis, they do work best with a bit of heat. So went out, used that lap, basically just chicaning, just to try and get some heat, try and get the brakes up to temperature as well. Started the first flying lap, seemed to be going reasonably okay. That was all fine. And then when I got round to the big straight at Taupo, which is like, I don't know, a K long or something, got up to, Odo said it was past 180, so I'm not too sure exactly what it was doing. Noticed a slight wobble in the steering wheel, but thought maybe just things weren't perfect with the balancing the wheels or something like that. So, and at speed things sort of can wobble a little bit, so that was fine. Started braking really early because again wasn't really confident in the brake department. Turned into the chicane at the end of the straight. Had a feeling it wasn't quite turning as well as it should. Turned round the right-hander, ready to go into the left, which comes onto the front straight at Taupo, and just as I went to put my foot down, yeah, the car barely even turned. So if it kept going straight, it would have been into the kitty litter and almost a tyre. So I backed off and just literally just cruised around for the rest of the lap. In hindsight, I should have just pulled over straight away, because I'd realised that I must have hit a puncture, what I believe is the corner where track 2 goes to track 3. because that's only a right-hander before that point. And yeah, I cruised around slowly thinking maybe it was just a slow puncture or something like that. Again, in hindsight, I should have stopped straight away. Ended up getting around back to the straight again. I've been doing about 20 to 30 k's that whole lap, and noticed it was starting to get even worse, and I saw a puff of smoke come out from the front right corner of the car. So I figured, oh, that's enough, hopefully things aren't on fire. Luckily we've got the extinguisher ready to go anyway. Jumped out of the car and the tyre was off the rim completely. It was still physically sort of around the rim, if you know what I mean, but it had debeaded. So I figured I would show you what happened to the tyre. Now that is your normal, what it should look like tyre from that side and that sort of thing. As you can see here, this tyre has let go in a big way, and this was the reason of my issue. This bit here we believe would be the culprit for the puncture, and obviously once that happened the tyre basically just, yeah, that was the end of it. And maybe if I'd stopped it wouldn't have been as bad. It wasn't this bad when I pulled over to the track, but obviously trying to get the car on the trailer and then backing it off and whatnot would have just done the last little bit of damage to completely ruin this tyre. So here's a train. Yeah, so that tyre is pretty much well and truly stuffed. I ended up walking around the pits for about the next hour, trying to find someone who may have some tyres that I could borrow. Ended up finally finding some tyres that I could use. A guy called Sean Potros, I think his name was. Apparently one of the Taranaki drift boys or something. So if you do see the Sean, cheers man, that really helped me out. Those are currently on the front of the car and enabled me to get home. Ended up giving me both tyres just so we didn't have an odd, you know, different tyre on each side sort of thing. Luckily there was a tyre machine at the track, so we got the wheels all switched over and ready to go. Ended up going out for the second grip session. We missed the second cruise session because I was doing all this sort of rubbish, but went out for the second grip session and see how that would go. Used probably 2 laps just to make sure things were all good. The third lap started to get a bit of pace into the car. Seemed to be going all right. Still wasn't too confident in the brakes, so I was backing it off early. And then on the second flying lap, the far corner of Taupo just before the big straight, I was entering that at probably, would have been 160, 170. Hit the brakes and a bit of a panic moment. Thought I was going to go straight off the end of the track because the pedal went almost to the floor. I did manage to pull it up. Carried around back onto the straight, away we go again. Got a bit more speed into it as well, and then braked well and truly plenty early, and again it's just not there. So finished the lap and then used the next lap to cool down, came back in. Again, it sounds like it may be a brake master issue or something like that, we're not too sure. But yeah, for now the car's done. I'm leaving it probably till the 13th of December now, so I'm not going to touch it probably again till next year. Yeah, don't know what's next with this car. Probably getting new tyres all around or trying to get the old wheels back up and running would do, but bit of a debrief for Atsumaru. Good to be back on the track again. Unfortunately only ended up about three laps at pace, so hopefully next event we won't have so many issues and we'll go from there. Yeah, bit of a long video. This one wasn't planned to be so long, but as always, any questions, get in touch. This car will need a lot of work and time, so if anyone does want to help out, more than definitely going to appreciate any help anyone can do for it. So thanks guys, and we'll see you in the next video. Cheers.